Seems interesting. I got over the hedge.
Good afternoon, Dwayne here, Tack Room Bible Talk. Going to look at a verse of scripture in the book of Philippians. For anybody who's kind of new, Philippians is in the New Testament. It's about 2/3 of the way from Matthew, roughly back towards Revelation. If you need to pause this, if you want to follow along, pause the video and then find it. We're going to be in Philippians chapter 2. And we're just going to talk about one verse right now. Philippians chapter 2, verse number 12 says, "Wherefore, my beloved." Now, I do this for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of brevity, but I am a very strong believer in context. And I've read all the context, studied in context, and I teach this in context. And so I encourage you, whenever I use these verses, to read all the verses around it and check out in context, okay? Who's talking? Who are they talking to? What are they talking about? All right? So, but for the sake of clarity and brevity, we're just going to start here. "Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling." Now, this isn't the verse we're looking at. That's just kind of getting a running start. But he says, he's telling this group of people in Philippi, he said, when I was there and I taught you what it means to be a Christian, how you should behave as a Christian, what you do, you obeyed. He said, now I've had to leave. And he said, so as ye always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence. So just because I'm gone doesn't mean when the cat's away, the mice will play. Okay? You keep holding on to the truth that is in scriptures. Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Now that is not work for your own salvation. That just means to make sure that you're born again. Work it out. Work it out in your mind. Work it out to understand. Am I truly born again? Okay. Verse number 13, this is the verse we want to look at. For it is God, listen to this, for it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. I'm going to read that again. For it is God which worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. Now, I was raised in church my whole life, and my dad was in the ministry, as you guys know, and I've seen it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I've seen the fighting, and I've seen the jealousies, and I've seen the narcissism, and I've seen the self-righteous hypocrisy, and I've seen it all from a little kid, and I got to the point it's like, I don't want to do this. Okay, I don't want to do this. I got to a point, though, as I started maturing,
I'm thankful for this family.
I'm thankful for Grandma's crescent rolls.
I paid for my own college, so I knew I'd have to start accumulating a lot of money and paying student loans.
Good morning. Dwayne here, Dry Creek Wrangler School. We got a little bit of a different location today. I'm actually in the horse trailer, which some might consider pretty fitting. But come in here to kind of get away from the noise a little bit from the interstate, and so I want to talk to you this morning about a subject that is so basic and so fundamental, but that has such a overreaching effect on us. And it has to do with I want to talk about making decisions, the difference between making good decisions, making bad decisions, and it has to do with everything in life. making decisions on whether to get into horses, if you will, or making decisions on whether to buy that particular horse or not, or making decisions on going into a particular field in life, or taking a particular job. Or a young couple has a huge decision ahead of them. Do we want to buy a house or do we want to rent? Do we want to have children right away? Somebody has to decide, I need to buy a car. Do I want to buy new? Do I want to buy used? Do I want to go to college? Do I want a degree? Do I want... And on a daily basis, our life is made up of so many decisions, and it can get overwhelming. I mentioned this before. Several years ago, I had a lot going on with work and with life, and I came home from work one afternoon, and when I walked in the door, my wife met me, and she said, what do you want for supper tonight? Now, she was just being very thoughtful, and whatever I wanted for supper, that's what she wanted to fix. And I stopped for a minute, and I told her, I said, honey, I am decisioned out. I've made a cajillion decisions today, and I don't want to make another one. I appreciate the thought and the heart behind it, but you cook whatever you want to cook. You decide, and I'll eat it, and I'll be happy for it. But if we look at our life, if we look at the difficulties in our life, where we are in certain places, we can trace most of our hard times, most of our bad positions. I mean, it just makes sense. It's so basic, it almost seems silly to mention it, but we can trace it back to a bad decision. I made the decision to do this. I made the decision to listen to this person. I made the decision to go down this road. I made this decision. Now I'm facing the results of that decision. And if I had been a little bit better at decision making, I might have been in a little bit better position in life. Not everything. There are things in life we don't have choice on, but most of the things come down to decision making. And I have found as I've gotten older that I can smooth out things in my life by making better decisions. And I have, for me, found, and I don't always make good decisions. I don't have a perfect record of decision making. But I have found a process for me that has helped with my decision making. And so I want to share that with you today. There's things nowadays that I'm like, man, if I had made this decision when I was a kid, I would have gone this route and I'd been a pickle. But I've kind of matured a little, and I've kind of been able to refine it. And I just want to share with you some things on making decisions. I would say the first thing, the world will tell you, follow your heart. Follow your heart. That's what the whole world will tell you. Everybody around you will tell you, follow your heart. First thing I'm going to tell you is, don't follow your heart.
Bruh.
Now, you want to follow your heart, but you don't want to follow your heart. And now you want to reach through that phone and choke me. But just hear me out and listen to me. Most of what we call our heart, following our heart, is not our heart. It's our emotions. And when people say follow your heart, a lot of times what they're saying is follow your emotions. And when we say, I'm going to follow my heart, we're not following our heart, we're following our emotions. Your heart is the core of who you are. It is the reality of who you are. That's your heart. It's what you're made up of. And it is what it is. Emotions are reaction to an outside action. All right? Somebody gives you a new iPhone, your emotion is you're happy. You drop that iPhone and break it, you're sad. Then the person who gave you the iPhone says, well, I had insurance. You're happy again. You have that iPhone for about 6 months, and a new iPhone comes out, you're dissatisfied. Your happiness, your emotions rise and fall on circumstances around you. So when you say, I'm going to follow my heart, what you're doing is you're going through life completely blindly reactionary to outside influences. And that's no way to live. So the difference between following your heart and following your emotions is your heart is who you are. Now, if somebody offered me a job as an accountant, making, an ungodly amount of money, I would have to turn it down. Why are you turning it down? That's good money. Yeah, and it's a secure job. Yes, it is. But I have to follow my heart. And that's not me. That's not who I am. Kids are raised and they have two parents who are, let's say one of them is a mathematics professor in a university and the other is an engineer. And so they're very mathematical. They're very precise. They're very logical, very numbers oriented. And then this child is born and he's a genetic throwback to maybe his grandmother on the Italian side or something. And this child is very passionate, very artistic. And maybe his parents want him to go into the field that they're in because it's been very good to them. It's been very stable. It's been very secure. It's been very financially profitable. And, most parents, they want the best for their children, and they want their children to go in to their field. But the child grows up, as the child's growing up, the child realizes that it loves art. The child's very passionate. Maybe it's painting, maybe it's ballet, I don't know, whatever it is. The child realizes that they realize that they are at heart an artist, not an analyst. And so they follow their heart into the life that they are created for. It's not an emotional decision, although emotions are involved. It's just being true to the heart. When I started the YouTube channel, I knew my heart. My heart was not to make money. My heart was not to build a big channel. My heart was not to get famous. My heart was none of that. It's just I knew that there were young people who wanted to go into some form of the wrangling or packing lifestyle, and there wasn't a lot of information out there to help them. And I knew there were people who were getting into horses, and they were spending a fortune on these clinics and seminars and videotapes and books, and it wasn't what they needed, and it wasn't helping them. It wasn't the basics and the core and the understanding of things. And I knew that because I was those people at one time. And I just really had a heart to help and to put out information that folks needed. Well, I was told, well, if you want to be successful in YouTube, you have to have music, and you got to be exciting, and you have to, you've got to have these cuts and these edits, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. And, I studied it out because I wanted to do it right. But I got to the point and I'm like, no, that's not my heart. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not noisy. I'm not frenetic. I'm not, that's not who I am. And that's not what I want to do. And if that's what I have to do to be successful, then I'm not going to be successful, because I started this from the heart. So I'm going to follow my heart. So I followed my heart, not an emotion. I just knew who I was and decided I'm just going to stay true to myself. And, as of today, like 538,000 subscribers or something. But that's the difference between following your heart and following an emotion. So first thing is when you have a large decision to make, don't follow emotions. All right? Don't follow your emotions, because your emotions are going to change with the circumstances. The circumstance is this right now, and you feel this emotion right now. Well, if you base your decision on the emotion that you feel right now, based on the circumstances that are right now, that circumstance is going to change. So your emotion's going to change, but you've already made the decision. But by the same token, you do want to follow your heart. All right? We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And secondly, you got to use your brain. You have a brain. All right? It may not be your life.
Don't settle for less. Enjoy a worry-free holiday with Rayovac. Get more savings and power more.
My husband used to ejaculate prematurely until this.
My hubby is ejaculating so fast, and then he gets so angry.
Dr. Jordan Peterson, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the invitation.
It's my pleasure. It's an honor to have you sitting here. I went to your event in Nashville, We Who Wrestle with God event, and very intriguing. I loved it, and I want to dig into some of that today. And just our previous conversation right before the show started, dig into a little bit about PTSD, as I have an audience that's very veteran heavy and veteran family heavy. And so there's a lot of people that are watching this that struggle with the aftermaths of a lifetime in combat. And so I think that would be very helpful. And then on top of that, my original plan was you have all these kind of religious figures, philosophers. You discuss the Bible a lot, and I've seen just some really interesting content. One being, I saw a lecture of you where you talk about how the Bible references itself 65,000 times approximately. And,
Hyperlinked.
And I would like to dig into some of your personal beliefs and maybe, if there's time, a little bit about what's going on in the world and why you think this is all kind of happening right now. But first, let me give you a quick introduction for anybody that doesn't know who you are, which I don't imagine there will be, but Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, an author, psychologist, online educator, and professor at the University of Toronto. The Jordan B. Peterson podcast frequently tops the top charts in the education category and among all podcasts. You've written 3 books which have sold more than 7 million copies: Maps of Meaning, 12 Rules for Life, Beyond Order. For 20 years, you've taught at some of the most highly regarded courses at Harvard and University of Toronto. You've published more than 100 scientific papers, nominated for 5 consecutive years as one of Ontario's best university lecturers, was one of only 3 professors rated as, in quotes, life-changing in the U of T's underground student handbook of course ratings. You've released a 17-part seminar on the biblical book of Exodus as the continuation of publicly acclaimed lecture on Genesis, 7.5 million YouTube subs, 150 million podcast downloads, 8 million
You're going to be married at first sight.
I do.
I do.
I do. I don't know anything about this person.
You're an actor, you're looking for work, your agent or somebody calls you and says, we'd like you to play Jesus. What's that like?
It was an answered prayer. That call by the name of the person who made that call was a friend and a colleague by that point, a guy by the name of Dallas Jenkins, who created The Chosen. And I had played Jesus for him for his church's Good Friday service in these little vignettes 3 times over the course of 4 years between 2014 and 2017.
Just literally in a church.
In a church. So we'd go and shoot out on a farm, these vignettes, whatever, built sets into this. In his church had like a little studio, and so we would, but mostly on location, we would film these little films that would be in the spirit of Good Friday or illustrate a particular gospel passage or scripture scene, and that was in line with the theme of the service for that year. And yeah, so the first time I played Jesus in one of those short films was the crucifixion. I was in it for 5 minutes. The film itself, it's called The Two Thieves. You can actually find it, I think, on Amazon still. And it was about, it was a what if story about the two thieves crucified on either side of Christ. Like, who were they? How did they get there? How do you go in like one of the Gospels in one paragraph from, he was being mocked and reviled even by the thieves next to him, to all of a sudden the penitent thief, as he's referred to, gives his life basically to Jesus in that moment and said, Lord, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus says, truly, today you will be with me in paradise. And he basically, it's like the first confession on the cross, and he grants him access to the kingdom. And so how do you go from being one of the mockers, revilers, to this sudden conversion on the cross? And so Dallas tries to answer that question in the course of this 25-minute film. I actually read for The Penitent Thief because he's got this fantastic narrative arc. And then, and I thought I'd had a great audition. It was in LA at the time, because he's got this fantastic narrative arc. And then, and I thought I'd had a great audition. It was in LA at the time. And I knew it was an opportunity to get paid a nominal stipend for some work in another city, in this case, suburban Chicago. And I thought, man, I would audition for this short film. I don't care if it's for a church. It's a great story. The script is great. So I go and I audition. I had a great audition. I'm like, I think I nailed it. A couple of days later, I get a call back to come back in, but this time to read for Jesus. And I thought to myself, man, I didn't get the first role. And then I looked again at the script. I'm like, wait, so Jesus got like 5 lines in the whole thing. But I had happened to have played Jesus 6 months prior for another completely independent project up in Washington State at a studio for this Catholic company called St. Luke Productions, about this saint in the early 20th century named St. Faustina, who was considered a mystic. She had these visions. She wrote an entire diary that was sort of dictated to her by Christ himself in these visions. And so I played Jesus in the vision aspect of that story for this traveling one-woman show, where it was an actress playing the saint, a screen behind her, a couple of rudimentary set pieces, and then all of the other characters in the show, in the play, including these visions of Jesus, was projected on a screen that she would choreographically time out her scenes with for 90 minutes. So fast forward 6 months later, I get this audition for The Two Thieves. I didn't get the Penitent Thief. I go and I audition for Jesus because I'm like, you know what? I enjoyed playing Jesus 6 months ago. Like, this would be cool if I got If I got anything, it'd be cool because I wasn't working steadily or consistently. And the way Dallas tells the story, about 10 seconds into the audition, he's like, that's Jesus. That's my Jesus for this show. And so we did that film. And it was screened. He brought me back to view it like a month later at the Good Friday service with his church. About 7 services. It was like 15,000 people saw this thing in a matter of a day and a half. And it was remarkably well received. It was so beautiful, and it was essentially the foundational bones of the concept of The Chosen, which is this sort of Ignatian spirituality, this Ignatian insight into the Gospels, which is basically you put yourself in the Gospel. In the Gospels, you ask yourself a series of questions, and that's how you meditate on the Gospels through this form of spirituality. And so this process of filmmaking was kind of like a living example of that on celluloid or digital celluloid. And so we did it again the following year for a different kind of scene, and then we skipped a year, and then 2017, the spring of 2017, I did one more film with him for his church. And then it was in probably the summer of 2018 where he called me and said, hey, want to put the sails back on? I think we're going to do this 4 episodes of a crowd-funded TV show. Probably not going to go anywhere, but it'd be some consistent work. And I jumped at the chance. I thought, okay, I had now played Jesus for him a few times. I was getting really comfortable with the role. I was also pulled in during that time between like 2016 and 2019. I started doing these passion plays, being involved in these passion plays that a friend of mine was directing. And then I helped co-direct, and then I co-wrote a version of the passion that we would put on for our church. And so for whatever reason, like, God was putting me in these situations, in these stories about Jesus so often in such a relatively short period of time. In a few years, I'd played Jesus like 5, 6, 7 times. And I started to think like, well, there must be something to this. Like, I don't know what it is yet. And then when I got the call for The Chosen, the penny dropped. And it was like, oh, all of that was preparation for this.
And it became much more than anyone thought it would be.
I would say so.
Yes.
The 4 episodes that probably wouldn't go anywhere became 8 episodes of a first season of the show that was crowdfunded by selling shares to fund the show. And then released in the fall of 2019, re-released for free because we were charging, I think, $15 for the season, the entire 8 episodes on DVD and streaming. And then when the pandemic hit, the folks at The Chosen said, we want to do something to kind of ease people's burdens and give the show away for free. And it exploded after that, like beyond anyone's imagination. And since then, it's always been free on the app, The Chosen app. So, and then now we just did a deal with Amazon. Amazon is going to be our exclusive window for the streaming of the show after its initial theatrical run, which for season 5 will be March 28th. It'll be in theaters for about a month. Then it'll go to Amazon for 90 days exclusively. And then it'll go to the app where it will remain free.
The Ring 4, November 22nd. Watch only on DAZN.
Are potbelly wraps really delicious, or are they just a lighter option?
Yes.
Are they low in carb or high in protein?
Yes.
And any sandwich can be a wrap?
I mean, it's turned into the biggest, thing in that genre, maybe ever.
Yeah. They don't often, nobody really releases figures in streaming for viewership and any of that kind of data, but we do because we're like, well, we don't care. We want to tell people. Like, it's been estimated right now that about 280 million people have seen the show globally.
340